Today on NewsWatch, Tropical Storm Erika has passed, but now two new severe weather systems are forming here where they're expected to strike.
Everybody wants that extra minute, that extra hour, that extra day. I feel like that we're restoring some humanity that they just didn't have before.
This treatment is giving new hope to Alzheimer's patients. We'll show you how it works. And box office success. The Christian film War Room debuted this weekend. See how many people showed up to support the film. Thanks so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Tropical Storm Erika dumped heavy rain on Florida over the weekend as another powerful storm system drenched another coast. But now as residents clean up and dry out, two more major hurricanes are forming. Caitlin Burke is following the severe weather.
Tropical Storm Erika is no more, but Florida is still feeling the effects. Flood watches remain for much of the state, and thanks to a high-pressure system, more rain is in the forecast. More than 15 inches of rain have already fallen in Florida, making this the third wettest August on record. Tampa residents hope sandbags can hold off more flooding.
We have some sandbags already set up, but figured we might need some more, so not taking any chances.
Across the country, the West Coast is cleaning up after a destructive system there smashed trees and downed power lines.
I just saw like the tail end of the tree, just like, oh, boom, falling. And I'm just like, no.
Parts of Washington experienced hurricane-force winds, interrupting an Army Air Force triathlon.
We had tents blowing across, we had branches falling off trees up in the hills.
Forecasters say the threat of bad weather is far from over. In the Atlantic, Tropical Storm Fred strengthened into a hurricane early this morning. And in the Central Pacific, Hawaii is bracing for the approach of Hurricane Ignacio. Meanwhile, bad weather out west didn't stop a memorial service to honor the 3 firefighters killed while battling wildfires in Washington state. More than 80 vehicles took part in a procession leading to the memorial service, where more than 100 firefighters stood at attention. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
A Kentucky clerk who was under fire for refusing to issue same-sex marriage licenses has appealed her case to the U.S. Supreme Court, but she may not have much success. That's because Justice Elena Kagan will decide if the High Court will hear her appeal. Kagan is considered a liberal justice, and she endorsed gay marriage in this year's Supreme Court ruling. Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis says being forced to authorize same-sex marriage licenses violates her religious beliefs. If the Supreme Court denies her case, the gay couples who have sued Davis could ask a judge to hold her in contempt. She could then face hefty fines or possible jail time. The legalization of same-sex marriage has prompted a Montana man, his wife, and his common-law wife to file a federal lawsuit to strike down that state's laws against bigamy. They argue it is unconstitutionally preventing them from legitimizing their polygamous relationship. They say the Supreme Court ruling legalizing gay marriage supports their case because it said marriage cannot be limited to just 2 people from the opposite sex. Well, as the battle to defund Planned Parenthood picks up steam, there is another fight happening in the background. Critics say the founder of Planned Parenthood should no longer be honored in America. A group of black pastors is calling for the National Portrait Gallery to remove a controversial bust of Margaret Sanger. Their goal to educate America on Sanger's racist agenda. Abigail Robertson has more.
A group of black pastors and pro-life advocates gathered in front of the National Portrait Gallery to demand the removal of the bust of the late Margaret Sanger, founder of Planned Parenthood, and some critics say a racist. The controversial bust has been on display since 2010 in the museum's Struggle for Justice exhibit alongside figures like Dr. Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. Those protesting the bust argue, how can a woman who advocated for the use of eugenics in blacks and minorities be on display with these civil rights heroes? When Bishop E.W. Jackson learned the bust was part of the exhibit, he assembled a group called Ministers Taking a Stand to fight for its removal.
She began her career trying to reduce the populations of black and other minorities through eugenics, which meant forced or coerced sterilization. She referred to black people and others as inferior, people who should be banned from having children, and she also referred to them as human weeds and human waste.
Pastor Iverson Jackson of Zoe Bible Church in Little Rock, Arkansas, urged the crowd in front of the gallery to join the fight against this hurtful symbol.
This symbol, this portrait, this bust of Margaret Sanger is destroying this country because of its racist spirit. So we stand together here today to say Margaret Sanger's bust must go.
Museum spokeswoman Bethany Bentley has said the statue will not be removed and that the gallery is meant to display significant people who represent the full spectrum of the American experience. Texas Senator Ted Cruz and Congressman Louis Gohmert have also joined the fight and have drafted a letter to Congress urging their colleagues to support the cause. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
The Obama administration is renaming Mount McKinley in a nod to Native Alaskans. The Interior Department says they're renaming it Mount Denali, a Native Alaskan word that means the high one. North America's tallest mountain peak is currently named after President William McKinley. He was America's 25th president and was assassinated early in his second term. The gesture to rename the mountain comes as President Obama is making a visit to Alaska. The goal of his visit is to renew his calls for action on climate change. Family, friends, and community members gathered for an interfaith service in memory of the two journalists killed on air last week in Virginia. The service for reporter Allison Parker and photographer Adam Ward was held Sunday at the Jefferson Center in Roanoke. Station manager Jeff Mark spoke about prioritizing mental health treatment and not allowing anger to take over, calling it a destructive force.
Anger eats at you, and the results we saw on Wednesday can be catastrophic. If we get strategic, we have a goal and the possibility of positive action, and that's what I'd like you to think about in memory of Allison and Adam.
Ward and Parker were killed by a former co-worker while doing their live interview. Ward's funeral will be September 1st, and Parker's family will hold a celebration of her life at a later date. What was once considered one of the greatest sites of the ancient world has been severely damaged by the Islamic State. Activists say on Sunday, ISIS set off a massive explosion at Bel Temple in Palmyra, a city in central Syria. ISIS took control of the city in May. The latest explosion comes just days after the terror group released propaganda images purportedly showing militants blowing up another Palmyra temple that was 2,000 years old. In Nigeria, at least 68 people are dead after Boko Haram militants went on a killing rampage in a village located in the northeastern part of the state. Fleeing Benue village residents say it happened Friday night. One farmer recounts the details, saying, quote, "We returned back to the village in the morning after spending the night in the bush. We saw corpses in the streets of the village." Boko Haram's 6-year-old uprising has killed nearly 2,000 people. Coming up, remembering the aftermath of Katrina and who stepped in when the government dropped the ball. This weekend marked the 10th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina hitting the Gulf Coast. The storm was brutal, but the aftermath was even worse. The government failed to properly respond to the disaster at all levels. And where it failed, organizations like Operation Blessing were on the ground in the heart of the hurricane zone. And the people they helped are still grateful.
We pray that the loss of life is very limited, but we're fearful that is not the case. It's too dangerous to come home. The roads are flooded, the power is out, the phones are down, and there is no food or water.
Hurricane Katrina ravaged the Gulf Coast with strong winds and record-breaking storm surge. Hundreds of thousands of people were left with nothing but broken down homes.
It was my house, I worked for it, and it was gone like that.
We was living in a FEMA trailer. We lost everything like everybody else.
And we had very little money. And we prayed that God would just send us the help and give us the strength we need.
Operation Blessing was among the first on the scene, providing meals and support.
We come into areas where people don't think that there's even a possibility of moving back home. And we, through the help of volunteers, can go in and gut a home, as insignificant as that may sound. All of a sudden, they begin to envision themselves back home.
More than 1 million homes were affected by the hurricane. One of the most immediate needs families faced was tearing out drywall before mold set in. At Jessica's house, Operation Blessing was able to do much more.
Wow! Oh, man. I just can't believe it.
Not only did we tear out the drywall, we refurbished and refurnished Jessica's entire house.
Hey!
Hi!
Oh my gosh!
How are you?
10 years later, Jessica and her family still live in the house Operation Blessing rescued from the flood.
Do you still remember being on the trampoline with me in the backyard?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do, yeah. I actually do remember that.
I do.
That was so long ago.
Yes.
I think that's one of my favorite things that I've done in like 10 years with CBN.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Inside, we took a moment to watch their original story, which Jessica hadn't seen in years. Again, it brought tears to her eyes.
I don't even know what I would have done. I can't imagine. It just means so much. Like I said, I would not have this if it wasn't for them, really.
Operation Blessing also treated more than 36,000 people at their mobile medical clinics.
We took all the proper steps to open up a fully fledged running medical clinic, dental clinic, as well as a pharmacy dispensing $150,000 worth of medication every single month.
The outreach was so successful, the Mayo Clinic took notice and formed a partnership with Operation Blessing, which continues to this day. Operation Blessing was also called upon by emergency management to help with an unusual threat. The brackish water that flooded the area filled swimming pools at abandoned homes. Each pool turned into a small swamp, a breeding ground for disease-carrying mosquitoes.
I mean, it was a huge health concern because now it could be an epidemic of West Nile virus and encephalitis. And so we sent volunteer teams out with bags of mosquito larvae-eating fish, dispensed them into swimming pools, and they would literally eat and attack the mosquito larvae.
10 years ago, I had an opportunity to help out with that effort. Operation Blessing put mosquito-eating fish in nearly 6,000 pools. And that summer, not a single person died of encephalitis or West Nile virus.
We also took on community projects. Pat saw firsthand how much a new library and garden cafeteria meant to the children of St. Mary's Academy.
We will never forget that day, that Operation Blessing came as a sign of hope for us. It's like angels that God had sent us to renew our spirit and reaffirm our trust in Him.
The team even renovated the Edward A. Cattengell Community Center, which included a boxing gym owned by Norman Van Court.
Everything we wanted and everything that Operation Blessing and the 700 Club wanted for the community and the kids, it happened. And it's still going, and it's going strong.
We also helped Norman renovate his own home with the help of Pastor Randy Millette.
Hurry up.
They rewired your house, man.
What?
Come see. All that copper is brand new plumbing.
Because of Operation Blessing and you guys, we was back home for 9 months. And I'm thankful for y'all, but to this day, I know I didn't deserve this. I tell everybody, Jesus and his people, which is y'all guys, Jesus and his people came and did this.
Operation Blessing provided relief for more than 2.5 years, and to this day continues to help those in need along the Gulf Coast. And whenever disaster strikes in the United States or abroad, we'll be among the first to offer a helping hand and share the love of Christ.
What Operation Blessing is doing by going to the website ob.org. See what Jesus and his people at Operation Blessing are doing. Minds of Alzheimer's patients see what's slowing down the disease and restoring minds. The story's coming up next. A new report shows another health danger from heavy smoking. It can lead to potbellies. Scientists at the University of Glasgow found heavy smoking can lead to fat being concentrated in the central part of the body, and that leads to a bigger stomach and what's known as an apple-shaped body. Those type of bodies are at higher risk for several deadly diseases like diabetes and heart disease. So smokers could be more at risk from those diseases as well as the cancer that can come from smoking itself. Well, more than 5 million Americans struggle with the terrible disease known as Alzheimer's. There is no cure, but doctors can help some people to slow it down. As Lori Johnson shows us, that help involves exercise for the brain.
Alzheimer's patients undergo mind training here at Clerk Brain Center. For 2 weeks, they encounter exercises designed to reignite the brain's areas of memory and personality.
We've had patients that have resumed driving. We've had patients that are remembering their grandchildren for the first time in years.
For example, a patient focusing on a dot while moving their head can improve connectivity in parts of the brain that have deteriorated.
In this exercise, Alzheimer's patients experience different kinds of motion, which stimulates the vestibular area of the brain and reawakens memories.
After her Alzheimer's diagnosis, Rosalie Kriesel gave up baking, although she used to love it.
How's that? Good?
That's all right.
After spending time here, Rosalie regained enough confidence to make cookies and a cake.
That really helped to start with, we could really see a change. Her personality was better. She was more bubbly. So she kind of got her personality back.
Jean Jones experienced terrible anxiety because she confused her nightmares with reality. That's gone now.
So it's made it wonderful, really. And that was really hard on me as a caregiver, trying to be understanding with that and explaining to her 15 to 20 times a day that that's not really what happened. That was just a dream that you had.
While these stories are encouraging, doctors want families to be realistic about the results.
And the thing I can say is they're not degenerating at the rate that the disease normally declines at, which I think is very, very important, because the biggest thing that we want to do is increase function enough to where they can interact with their family and then not lose that as fast. Because everybody wants that extra minute, that extra hour, that extra day, that extra month. And if we can give those things, then I feel like that we're restoring some humanity that they just didn't have before.
After patients leave the center, it's crucial they keep their minds working.
So whether that's doing things on our iPhone or whether that's doing crossword puzzles, stimulating conversation, not necessarily just being in front of the television, watching the television, but actually talking about topics. Those are the things that are really going to help to really activate the brain.
The right diet can also play a key role in slowing down the progression of Alzheimer's.
Well, a good brain diet is usually pretty low in grains. So a lot of the processing and chemicals and other things that we use to allow us to take grains from the field into the supermarket and keep it alive, some of those things are just not, very good for the brain.
In addition to grains, patients should steer clear of packaged foods containing trans fats. Research from the University of Oregon shows that people who consume trans fats, also called hydrogenated oils, perform worse on thinking and memory tests, plus had smaller brains.
We know that in Alzheimer's disease that the brain shrinks at an accelerated pace as the disease and pathology spreads to a certain part of the brain. But if you have a larger brain and more brain tissue, you might have a reserve to handle that pathology better.
Scientists discovered the people with the larger brains ate diets high in vitamins B, C, D, E, and fish oil.
Some Alzheimer's patients experience symptom reversal by taking coconut oil.
This discovery came when Dr. Mary Newport worked with her husband, Steve, who has Alzheimer's. First, he drew this picture of a clock. After 2 weeks on coconut oil, he drew this version. After 3 weeks came even more improvement. She included this and other research in her book, The Coconut Oil and Low Carb Solution for Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and Other Diseases. Dr. Newport believes some patients have what she calls type 3 diabetes. This entails an insulin problem that prevents brain cells from getting needed glucose. She says coconut oil provides an alternate energy source known as ketone bodies that feed the brain cells.
I do have a collection now of almost 220 reports, mostly from caregivers and some from the person themselves, reporting that they saw improvement after they started taking coconut oil.
In addition to mental stimulation and a healthy diet, Alzheimer's patients seem to benefit from a stable home life.
That means minimizing chaos, keeping household items in the same place, and sticking to routines.
You know, if you're adding a lot of new things into the environment, that can be a challenge for patients who are having memory issues.
While lifestyle changes don't cure Alzheimer's, they can slow down the progression of the disease, which means more precious time with loved ones. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
A film about the power of prayer was the leading new film at the box office this weekend. War Room opened at number 2 behind Straight Outta Compton with $11 million in ticket sales. The Sony TriStar release is the latest from Christian filmmakers, the Kendrick brothers, who also produced Courageous and Fireproof. War Room is about a struggling family who is preserved through the power of prayer. Its box office success came because many churches bought out theaters to attend and to send Hollywood a message about what they'd like to see more of. It is now time for your Monday motivation, and perhaps you have a big dream or big desires that all seem too overwhelming. Well, the key to attaining them is to take a step, simply do something. That first step is just a small piece of a bigger picture, and it's all part of God's perfect plan. Take that small step of faith and trust God to honor it. After all, without faith, it is impossible to please Him. That is going to do it now for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Please do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. And join us here again next time. Make it a marvelous Monday, everybody.